Picture this, it's 2012 and you're up late at night playing on your Nintendo 3DS. You're probably playing Super Mario 3D Land or that shitty version of Street Fighter 4. Then your mom busts in the room, and at this point you have exactly 3.5 milliseconds to react. So within those 3.5 milliseconds, you manage to shut your 3DS screen, put it under your pillow, and roll over and pretend that you were sleeping this whole time. Your mother obviously knows you weren't sleeping at all, but she spares you the ass whooping for the one time. As she closed the door, you let out a sigh of relief knowing that your ass didn't get touched that night. No deal. Fast forward over a decade later, and you're already 2 years out of high school, went through 3 jobs already, and you can't even remember the last time you even touched a fucking 3DS. Yeah, that's where we're at right now. Around a month ago, one of my good producer friends, Hydra, posted a remix of the Nintendo 3DS internet settings to IG Reels with the caption, POV, you grew up during the 3DS era. If you scroll through the comments, you can see people saying stuff like, the memories, wish they never fade away. And the best thing from the 3DS era Pokemon is that they had proper experience sharing. Took them 17 years to get up to standards of other RPGs. Started making me wonder, like, why is everyone talking like the Nintendo 3DS came out so long ago? Motherfuckers are talking about the console like it's ancient. Then I seen a comment that said I still have my pink 3DS I got for my 9th birthday 10 years ago. Then I went on the internet to see how old the 3DS is, and turns out it's 12 years old. Now that's not too surprising, but what is surprising is how people are talking about the 3DS. Like, you know you're old when you make edits for the 3DS. Old is a diabolical ass adjective to use when you're talking about the 3DS. There was another post on TikTok talking about the 3DS music, and bruh, niggas was in the comments talking about if you grew up with a 3DS, you're unk. My nigga, what? If me growing up with a 3DS makes me unked, then what does that make niggas who grew up with a GameCube? Boy, you're gonna tell me those niggas are stepdads now? And what about people who grew up with a Nintendo 64? Oh, they must be fucking dinosaurs now. Now, of course, it's easy to say that the 3DS came out over a decade ago, and of course, people are gonna reminisce about it, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure niggas wasn't talking about the GameCube like this when the 3DS first came out. When you think about video game consoles with system soundtracks, that whole wave didn't really start into the 7th generation consoles were released. Yeah, previous consoles had cool startup themes and jingles, but shit, the GameCube didn't have no Nintendo eShop music. The GameCube didn't even have an eShop. When 7th generation's consoles came around, you started hearing more music navigating within the systems, especially with Nintendo consoles. The Nintendo Wii has some of my favorite system soundtracks of all time, but we're not talking about the Wii, we're talking about the 3DS. When it comes to Nintendo handheld consoles, the DSi was the first to have a full system soundtrack, but the 3DS was the first to perfect it. They turned the soundtrack from a few menu themes into a whole entire experience. As soon as you got the damn thing, brand new, and turned it on, there was music playing in the background. I'm talking about factory setup type shit. That's like if you got a brand new iPhone and you heard music at the hello screen. When you think about it, that's low-key insane. The initial setup theme consists of soft, soothing synthesizer pads that play variations of the same chord progression. It's quite comforting. It gives you a sense of home. When you make it to the home screen, you're greeted with a bright, almost intergalactic song that just flows. It sounds like you're sitting in a cockpit of a spaceship.
Oh shit, that's me!
I love how open and free this music sounds while managing to still keep a tempo, and it does an amazing job of representing the big white void that is the world of Nintendo. It's calming though. You think being stuck in Nintendo's back rooms would be scary, but if I heard the Nintendo 3DS home screen theme playing in the background, I'd be chilling. I'm not even gonna lie. There are a total of 9 different themes that are featured within this app, my favorite of which being the Pop Slideshow theme. I love this theme, man. This shit makes me feel like a bad bitch walking through Saks Fifth Avenue with like 4 bands in my pocket. Some other honorable mentions when it comes to the camera app slideshow themes include the Funk slideshow theme and the Chilled slideshow theme. These camera app themes, in my opinion, really show what the 3DS was capable of sound-wise. Compared to the DSi, the 3DS allowed for composers to implement more instrumentation, flesh out their tracks even more, and dabble in a little more experimentation, resulting in a unique sound that's exclusive to the Nintendo 3DS. Now, for a console that was released in 2011, that doesn't sound like all that much because this is the 3DS I'm talking about, right? It's actually quite special in my eyes because these are all PCM samples, meaning each instrument was a sample that was arranged in MIDI, and because the 3DS was just a handheld, that means composers most likely had a limited number of tracks to work with, making this music a lot more impressive. That also means it's possible to hack the 3DS and extract MIDI and audio files so you can view the arrangements in a DAW and make your own sound fonts. Before I get into talking about why this music sounds so nostalgic, I want to talk about one last theme, and that's the internet settings theme. This song is most likely likely my favorite 3DS system track of all time. It's so light and airy, yet has enough bounce to make you want to pop ass for the next 3 weeks. I don't know if I ever said this on the channel, but I have a real soft spot for garage music and shit that sounds like Pink Panther's instrumentals. Speaking of Pink Panther's instrumentals, this song sounds just like a Pink Panther's instrumental. In fact, Black Mass put some of her vocals over this and it sounded too good.
Had a few dreams about you, I can't tell you what we did.
Alright, on to why Nintendo 3DS music sounds so nostalgic. To answer that question, we have to first get an understanding of what nostalgia is and what triggers it. According to the Googles, nostalgia is a complex emotion that can be triggered by many activities, including, and if you skip the first two, you'll see that it says media, watching old movies, TV shows, or video games, or listening to familiar music. I personally think what makes 3DS music so nostalgic is not the music itself, but how the music sounded. When I was writing this video, I listened to the system soundtracks for the Nintendo DSi, 3DS, the Nintendo Wii U, and the Nintendo Switch, just to see how the music progressed over time. And the main difference I noticed between the DSi, 3DS soundtracks, and later consoles is the lack of Bitc Crushing. Anyone who asks why Nintendo DS music sound the way it does would pretty much be met with the same answer, and that's Bitc Crushing. A Bitc Crusher is an audio effect that produces distortion by reducing the resolution or bandwidth of digital audio data. The resulting quantization noise may produce a warmer sound impression or a harsh one, depending on the amount of reduction. Nowadays, people use Bitc Crushing as an effect to emulate the older sound of video game music. I used it extensively on my past couple albums, but back in the day, most of the music that sounded Bitc Crush wasn't done intentionally. Storage wasn't as abundant as it is nowadays, so audio files like songs and samples were considered huge back then. In order to conserve space, samplers and video game sound chips will Bitc Crush the hell out of their imported samples, so the user would have more space to work with, resulting in that unique, warm, slightly noisy sound that was present in samplers in video games. This was especially important for video games because you gotta think, how many different files are within a video game? You have 3D models, animations, sprites, codes, sound effects, music, and literally thousands of those different files, even some going unused. Music in old video games literally had to sound like that. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been enough space for other elements of the games. Here's a prime example. The Sega jingle that you hear in the beginning of Sonic 1 took up 1/8 of the entire game's storage size. This 6-second portion of the game took up 1/8 of the entire game's storage. So yeah, the warm sound of the Nintendo 3DS music, coupled with the warm, cozy feeling most of us had as a child, while playing this game at least, made an experience that's almost impossible to replicate years down the line. It's almost a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And I think so many people rave about the 3DS of this music because of how Nintendo used music to add to the 3DS experience. It was deadass like a soundtrack that came with a video game console on the side. And like I said, I listened to the soundtracks for the Wii U and the Switch, and although it stays true to that Nintendo sound, it lacks the Bitc Crushing and the warmth that was present in the DSi and 3DS. Do I ever see music returning to this point? Honestly, no. Nintendo has always been known to innovate and rarely turn their backs when it comes to their consoles, and I feel like producing music like that again would be Nintendo regressing in that department. If there's ever a situation where a throwback type game is released like Sonic Mania but for one of Nintendo's franchises, I think the idea of making classic Bitc Crush music would fit. But another thing about Nintendo is that they rarely ever do what you want them to do. So all I can assume is that Nintendo is just going to leave us with the memories we all had. It's not like the 3DS doesn't exist anymore though. You can literally go get it for like $100 on eBay right now. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of this video. Let me know down in the comments below what's your favorite 3DS system soundtrack. And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't, give it a thumbs down. You already know the deal. Also, like I said earlier in the video, I make music. So if you want to listen to some of that on Spotify, Apple Music, or SoundCloud, ScrewStache everywhere on there too. I'm actually getting ready to put out a Nintendo 64 themed EP, so be on the lookout for that. And yeah, shout out all my gay niggas, happy Pride Month, you feel me? And peace out.